So believe it or not, it's been a couple of months since the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 came out, and actually from my calculations, it's been about 4 months, which is pretty insane because it really doesn't even feel like that. I feel like the last 4 months flew by. I mean, we got the Note 20, the OnePlus 8T, the iPhone 12s, 12 Pro Max, all those iPhone 12s coming out at the same time, and then randomly these M1 MacBooks, which was pretty insane. But with this Note 20, what I can tell you is that there's some good, there's some pros, there's some cons as well, and luckily, I think for a lot of people, including me, there hasn't really been an insane, development with this phone. I think all the problems when this phone first came out, such as the glass back, the removal of the micro SD card slot, low resolution screen in the top tier model, those type of things kind of, went out of the way early on. So, since then, there hasn't really been any huge defects, not anything that's like plaguing the whole entire community. And luckily, these things have actually gone down as expected in the used market quite a bit. So if you want to pick one of these things up for a much cheaper value than when it first came out, I'll go ahead and find the cheapest one on Amazon, link it down in the description below. You can get it from there and I'll support the channel at the same time. Now, typically everything outside has still stayed consistent. Nothing has really changed super crazy. We haven't gotten any updates to the screen or the camera or anything, and there hasn't been any like revised models. So we're still sticking with that 6.7 inch panel, no 120 hertz, still only 1080p, and Samsung still kept it at the same price. And one thing I don't understand that I never understood is why Samsung even makes these types of panels. Samsung makes it beautiful OLED panels. I look at phones even from the Galaxy S6, and that thing arguably may have a better panel than this thing, which is so insane. And that phone came out like in 2015. So this thing, for having this type of panel, is super insane to me. I'll never understand it. I think the biggest development, actually, now that I think about it, that's actually happened is that a lot of rumors are coming out saying that Samsung may actually go and eliminate their Samsung Galaxy Note 20 lineup. And if that happens, or their just whole entire Note lineup in general, so we won't even get a Note 21, we won't get a Note 30 or whatever. It's just going to be Samsung Galaxy S and maybe all their A series devices. So that's going to be insane. I personally do look forward to a lot of Note devices, and I think the Note 20 Ultra was a tremendous device. I think that phone was freaking awesome. But the Note 20, they should have never even made this phone. It's just like such like a laughing stock. I don't understand. And USB Type-C port on the bottom, obviously, we still have the S Pen, which is very cool, one of its biggest selling points. But on the back, it still bothers me to this day. I thought I would get over it. You'd think you'd get used to it, but it's even funnier because they put this plastic back on this device, but then we got that Galaxy S20 FE, which I think was a much better device than a lot of other budget phones this year, but that's kind of like a hush-hush type of opinion. That device, in my opinion, shouldn't have even had a glass back either, and that thing was probably like $599 or $549, whatever it was pretty expensive, but it was still a really good phone in my opinion, and that phone had a plastic back as well. So it originated from this device. It should have been the opposite. This phone should have had a glass back, and that phone should have maybe had a plastic back, whatever. But the fact that these two phones have it at that discrepancy of price is super insane to me. Samsung has made phones back in the day with all glass enclosures, with everything. Look at the Galaxy S6, which was cheaper at that time than this phone, but that phone was a flagship. That thing had everything in it. This phone doesn't really have everything in it. It still has the standard features of every other device that's ever came out, which is insane to me. So that plastic back really was a dent in the whole entire Note lineup. Had they put a glass back on this thing, had they made this thing really a premium Note device, that would have been different. They should have never even split up the Note devices. They never should have split up the Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus. They should have just kept it the Note 20, the Note 21, the Note 31, or whatever. With the Note 9, tremendous device. Everything Samsung had at that moment, they threw it into a device. And this one, I don't know, the stigma is still there. A lot of people still talk about this device and say, it's definitely not that great of a device. It's in nobody's top 10 devices, I don't think, this year. We have devices like all the iPhone 12s, all the OnePlus devices, and maybe all the Samsung Galaxy S series devices that came out, and quite possibly the iPhone SE2. I don't think anybody's going to say the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 is one of their top 10 devices, and that is completely all Samsung's fault. Now, the camera setup on this thing, I think, was pretty good as well. It was typical, It really wasn't anything too super crazy coming from the Galaxy S20 that we already saw, but I still appreciate the fact that we have the ability of shooting 8K capability videos, which I think is very, 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 very necessary. I think it was probably one of this phone's biggest assets. You had that 12 megapixel wide, 64 megapixel telephoto lens, than that 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor. Now, like I said, 4K 60, all that good stuff, but that 8K capability really added a lot more character, and that's what this phone needed. It needed more character at the end of the day. And Samsung, switched it around a little bit, but one thing I can't really complain about is that camera quality. You take photos indoors, outdoors, anything you do with it, it's going to give you a very, very good experience in my opinion. And when you have a device like the Samsung Galaxy Note 20, you are going to be set for a very long time in the camera quality department. I've seen a lot of devices that sometimes get, like a 4K at 30 camera, even in this day and age. Phones like the Pixel 4a, I think the Pixel 5 can do 4K at 60, but the Pixel 4 and 4 XL that came out last year, only 4K at 30, and you're already outdated. This phone does the opposite. You have 8K, even though nobody's going to use it. When that time does come, when people are still filming in, 8K capability, you're going to be ahead of the curve, and your phone is going to support it. Imagine having 4K at 60 back at 2012. That's kind of how we're at right now with 8K. So I think that's a really awesome capability that you have, and that's definitely a really good thing about the Note 20. But again, because of other things about this device, it really rubs me the wrong way. But the camera, no complaints here. I really do like it. And you have 4K at 60 on the front as well, which is really awesome. And for the rest of the device, you get IP certification, you get the S Pen, you get all those things. It's expected. The performance was pretty good as well. There really hasn't been too many complaints in my opinion. Like I stated, a lot of people were complaining about the lack of a 120 hertz display, and so was I. That was something I was looking really like. The Galaxy S20 has it. It's like the same price as this phone, so it really doesn't make any sense. And I believe the S20 FE had it as well or something like that. And that's another thing that just does not make any sense. Samsung makes really, really, really weird decisions sometimes, but I think the performance was very good. You had the latest chipset of this time. You had 8 gigs of RAM, which I think is more than enough. But again, no micro SD card slot, still only stuck with a lot of storage, 256 gigs. But it would have been nice had you been able to get a 512 or 1 terabyte model. As I think I remember the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus last year had the ability of going up to 1 terabyte. And that was not a Note device, that was an S10 Plus. And that also had a micro SD card slot, which is another insane thing to me. I will never understand Samsung's logic with a couple of these things, but I think the performance was totally okay for a lot of people. And in this day and age, I'll probably tell you the Note 20, even a Note 10, even a Note 9 is still perfectly fine and equipped for an Android device. But the lack of 120 hertz does make this phone feel a little bit more sluggish compared to something like a Note 20 Ultra, which even has the same exact chipset and all that stuff. It just lacks that 120 hertz refresh rate. So in terms of performance, that covers it up. And the battery life, I think, is another area where this phone really shines in. 4,300 milliamp hours, reverse wireless charging, all that good stuff, wireless charging. And I think that's a really good thing. This phone comes at a really weird spot where it excels in some things, but the places that it really doesn't excel in, it really hurts this phone. There's some areas where, if a phone has, 6 gigs of RAM instead of 8 gigs or something, a lot of people may be okay with that. If a phone, lacks some things, but it's a cheaper device and it's a budget phone, I think a lot of people will be okay with that too. But in this phone, it seems like the highs are high and the lows are low. It just seems like the camera is great. The battery is pretty good. The wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, those are flagship type of features. IP certification, the S Pen, even the screen for some may actually be a pro. But when it comes down to the actual, functional hardware features that Samsung was known for, kind of like the really, really good panel that they've been doing since probably the Note 9 and before, but they switched up with the Note 10, still carries on with this device. The plastic back, such a stupid decision. It still does not make any sense to me. The lack of 120 hertz, that's another big deal. And I feel like a lot of people still probably will never get over that because it's just something that the Note 20 should have had, but it didn't. The S20 FE has it. This phone doesn't. The lack of micro SD card slots, still, that's a Samsung feature. That is something that's an amazing feature for sure. And Samsung didn't put it on this phone either. They didn't have it on the Note 10, but still it would have been really nice had Samsung made a surprise appearance with it here. And I don't know, it was still the same price, and I just feel like they just kind of took a flop. And if the Note line actually ends, I would be really sad. I hope they can make a Note 21 and just, knock it out of the park and make the Note lineup how it was before. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people, including me, will hype it up and buy it. I would eventually have kept my Note 20, but it was just a flop in my opinion. It just feels like a budget phone in my opinion, which is so weird because it shouldn't have been. This is like $1,000 phone, but it was pretty much like a budget phone in my opinion. So that really pretty much covers it up for the most part. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count. So it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.